best career advice that I can give: don't ever attach yourself to a person, a place, a company, an organisation or a project. Attach yourself to a mission, a calling, a purpose only. That's how you keep your power and your peace. It's worked pretty well for me thus far. And that was reposted on Instagram by Erica Williams Simon. The handle is at Miss E Will. Hello everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Toyah Talks podcast. It's been a while. I've got to admit, it's been a few weeks, and to be honest with you, I need to take some time out because I was starting a new job, going perm, trying to figure out kind of like a new routine, and doing my due diligence at work. I'm still doing my due diligence. We're 3 weeks in. And just getting used to the change of a perm, because it's a lot when you've been a contractor for 7 years. And now you're having to basically invest in one company where before you never really invested. Now, I use the word invest because I think it's the best way to describe going perm, but not invest in the way you think. I mean, just focus on one role as opposed to having several other clients or just looking at the delivery aspect of working for a particular client. I think when you go perm, you're more involved in the fabric of the organisation. You are going to those town halls, you're looking at your objectives for the year, you're definitely focusing on making sure that your due diligence is done on a periodic basis, as well as when you first start. You're getting to know your team. You need to figure out what the politics is and where you're positioning yourself, and ultimately working on your strategy about your career and where you want to go to. And that's a lot, so I took a couple of weeks off, and obviously in true form I take a few weeks off and a lot happens in those times. But if you follow me on Instagram, I do kind of talk about certain things. I'm very active on Instagram more than any other social media platform, and that's because it's 24 hours on stories. It's easy, it's just easy. TikTok is probably the second most used social media platform that I use, but it's short bursts of Toyah Talks stuff. Snapchat I use less, but I need to actually use it more because I'm now saving a lot of the videos from Instagram and I will be posting them on Snapchat, and Snapchat is the birthplace of the Toyah Talks platform, so I will never not be on Snapchat, but I just need to commit myself to be on it more regularly. That being said, started a new role, and it's going okay. I definitely really like my team. We're all really, really different, but it all works. My manager is really lovely. He's not based in the UK. He is coming over to the UK in 2 weeks' time. So we're going to have like a team meeting in person, and we're all going to dinner, which again is different for me. Number one, because it's not something I usually do, but different also because now I have a daughter. I'm a mum. So I feel like networking with my team or kind of doing these things means something different, even more so now that I'm a mum. Because all I want to do is get back to my child. I'm not really interested in doing the dinner. However, I recognise as part of navigating, especially with the organisation I'm working for, it's important. And it is the organisation I'm working for, it's a very flexible culture, but you're still expected to show up, okay? And navigating, from what I've seen, is going to require me to give a little of myself, obviously never giving enough of myself, but I'm pretty happy, and everything I teach on the Toyah Talks podcast is what I'm living. And I always say to you, whether you're a contractor or a perm, you need to know what your objectives are pretty early on. I've been here 3 weeks, and I've asked every week for me and my boss to work through my objectives, and I've come in at the opening of what do you call it, bonus year, where now they start looking at your deliverables. Are you hitting your objectives? And then they'll start quantifying that with the percentage of bonus that you would basically be awarded. So I'm using this as a really good opportunity to get to know my boss, because I've already written down a couple of things. I have a few things in my mind about what my objectives are going to be, but allowing him to lead this, because he's very much wanting to be in control of this whole thing. But we have to mutually agree what those objectives are. And also, I'm linking that into my job description, and now I'm on the ground actually seeing the viability of actually achieving those objectives. So working with him to come up with objectives, although I have my own and I'll be sharing those with him. And also using bonus year to see how he sees me. You know, sometimes it's you're not always in a situation where, you know, you get to know someone really, really well because you go to the office every day and you can see the whites of their eyes. When you have a boss who maybe isn't in the same country as you, or as myself, 100% remote, building that relationship requires you to really observe, and the due diligence has to be done quite rapidly, because you're not getting to see the physical gestures, you're not seeing him with other people or her with other people, and therefore you're arriving at an understanding of the character that you're working with is quite difficult if you don't allow yourself the opportunity and time to really observe in other situations. I've never been in a meeting with my boss and my other stakeholders, so I don't know if he's quite a confident person or if he's quite forceful. I don't know these things. I just know that with me he's been very nice, very accommodating, but he's extremely busy. But this, how he decides my bonus, how he quantifies the bonus, how he communicates my bonus, is going to let me know a bit more about his character in terms of his employment integrity. And I feel like people don't talk about employment integrity enough, and employment integrity is something I have coined, and it's about how people operate in their position of power and how they exercise that power with junior members of staff junior to them. Because in my organisation I am senior, but obviously he is the director, and I could have been benched as well, because consultancy style, I could have been benched, and I've been deployed onto a project, and I've also been deployed onto another project. We're just waiting for that to come through. I also have a holiday coming up, so all of this is going to be really interesting to see how my boss deals with these things. You know, how am I going to be covered when I'm not there? How, like I said, he handles the bonus, what he apportions to my bonus, so the percentage he gives me, and it would let me know a little more about him and how he views me, and then understanding strategically how to navigate in order to obtain what my personal career objectives are, because he's going to be fundamental to that. So yeah, I think it's important that I share this, because no one is exempt from the strategy of navigating work, irrespective of the position you hold. In fact, the more senior you are, the more political it becomes. And then it's also about leveraging your boss or senior members of staff to navigate the political aspects of the world of work and organisation that you work in. I can't open this podcast without discussing Diane Abbott. Now, we all know what has occurred here in the UK, and effectively the largest Tory donor is Frank Hester, and he has an estimated wealth of 415 million, and over the last 2 years he's donated 10 million to the Tory party. He's also profited, and he's profited by having been awarded some contracts. So 135 million of the NHS contracts were awarded to him between 2019 and 2022, which was at the height of the pandemic. So hopefully that gives you a flavour of the type of money and influence and wealth that we're talking about when we talk about Tory donors, because Tory has several donors. But he is the highest, financially the highest Tory donor. So, Tory Hester has been accused of, and ordinarily one would say allegedly, but it's not really alleged, is it? But for the purposes of being politically correct, he has been accused of saying that Diane Abbott makes one hate all black women, and that Diane Abbott should be shot. This is what is alleged that Frank Hester has said. Now, this blew up in the media. It catapulted the conversation of race, the violence and recklessness of words, the inciting of hatred that's underpinned by racism, and it's really allowed us to see how politics operates. Like, how, you know, we're talking about diversity and culture and living here in the UK. I just want to add that Diane Abbott is a 70-year-old woman. She is the longest serving MP in black British politics. She has been through a lot. Like, we've seen a lot. And I do need to caveat all of this by also saying that Diane Abbott is currently suspended from the Labour Party, and she's been accused of anti-Semitism. So all this is happening all at the same time. And Keir Starmer, I've always had issues with Keir Starmer because I feel as though Keir Starmer is the Labour Party leader but behaves like a Conservative. Instead of him during the parliamentary questions to Rishi Sunak, instead of Keir Starmer, whose member of his party has been verbally attacked and abused and discriminated against, instead of him to have called upon her, who had stood up 46 times during the parliamentary question, they were all talking about her and she was there. He didn't once turn around and say, you know, my learned friend wishes to make a statement. From what we've heard from Diane Abbott, Keir Starmer hasn't reached out to her. What Keir Starmer did, in my opinion, is use this to railroad his political agenda. And he did not safeguard the interests or safeguard Diane Abbott. And what he was condemning, and rightfully so, was what was said. But it was all performative. Because we were literally watching the parliamentary questions. Diane Abbott was there. Keir Starmer knew she was there. He didn't once turn to her. You trying to tell me no one told him that she was there standing up 40? Do you know how many times, 46 times, how many minutes you must be standing up to be standing 46 times? And not one person asked her to speak. Rishi Sunak said that Frank Hester has apologised. So his apology, if sincere, which was sincere, should be accepted. Do you know how wild it is to tell a black woman, you will be abused, you will be discriminated against, you will be verbally assaulted, and if the person is sincere in their apology, you should just accept it? Who and what gives you the right to tell us what we should and should not accept? How dare you? Frank Hester apologised if his words were, I can't remember what his exact words, but he said that he apologised if his words were offensive. Can you imagine? That is very different to apologising for the act of being discriminatory and verbally abusive. He did not take accountability, and that is the problem. And that lack of accountability provides the license for other people to think it's okay to behave in that way because there are no consequences, i.e. the complete condemning of that behaviour. The policing of black women is violent. The assault and the verbal aggression and assault towards black women is very violent. And this is why, if I feel as though I'm being treated in a disadvantageous way, I'm going to talk. I will never allow myself to be oppressed by anyone, and very least of all a white person, and very least of all a white man. It's not going to happen. And I've shared with you a podcast episode called Closet Racist, where I genuinely feel as though there are people out there, non-black, who are either intimidated by black women or see us as an easy target for abuse. And this was an opportunity. What happened to Diane Abbott was an opportunity for non-black people to condemn the behaviour and unite in a single voice of understanding that this cannot happen. This is no more different to discriminating anyone for the race and colour of their skin and their gender. If Diane Abbott was a white man, he would not say it. If Diane Abbott was any other race and a man, Frank Hester would not have said what he did. It's inciting hatred. It's inciting violence, what he said. It is now under police investigation, and I'm really interested to see the outcome of that investigation, because by the principles of the law and the definition of verbal assault, inciting racial hatred and discrimination, a crime here has been committed. So we're waiting. But what was very evident is a lot of the political commentators who were black were called. And what was more disgusting is the way in which the media will weaponize black people who are skin folk but are not skin folk. So skin folk physically, but in their minds they're still mentally enslaved. And having the audacity to be for hire to condemn Diane Abbott and talk about her history or whatever. Listen, when an assault has happened, when something has happened, I don't give a damn whether Diane Abbott was disrespectful in the House of Commons or whatever it is, and I'm just giving an example here. An act has been committed that is racist. It is verbally violent and it incites a level of violence that is incomprehensible. That needs to be addressed. But for some reason, we convolute issues in this country to avoid addressing the vulnerability that is placed upon black women by attempting to remove our ability to feel safe and feel safe to be able to express ourselves and feel. This country is just unbelievable. I want to give you an example, and we're still staying on the topic of Diane Abbott here. I'm going to give you an example of something. Every Sunday we take our daughter swimming, right? And there's parents there with their kids, you know, and you've got other parents sitting on the sidelines, and it's really beautiful. And there's like an age group, and it's actually a swimming school. So my daughter will grow up in this swimming school. Yeah? So I was sitting there, and I can sit here and say, there's probably 4 black people that attend, right? This swim school. It's a very diverse swim school, to be honest with you. But the objective of this swim school is to get the babies, you know, in the water, get them to start using their bodies and understand how to swim and teaching them core skills. I believe swimming is a life skill. Yeah? So as I'm there, I decide that I wanted to take pictures of my daughter because Kay is the one that goes in the pool with our daughter. Our daughter is now 11 months. She started going swimming at 9 months because it was just so difficult to get her into this swim school, but by the grace of God I managed to get her in the swim school. So a few weeks before, I did ask the swimming instructor, the coach, can I be taking pictures of my daughter? And she said, yeah, as long as it's of your daughter, there's no problem. It's always nice to have the memories. I said, no problem. I'll make sure that if I accidentally capture anybody else, I'll delete it. But I will, you know, for me, it's, you know, I just want to take some. She goes, no problem. So now we're in a class, and this is probably my daughter's 3rd or 4th class. So as Kay's swimming with her, I say to Kay, I'll bring her closer. So I bend down. And as I'm about to take a picture, there is a man that is also sitting on the side. Now, there's a few parents on the side, but this one in particular has a newborn baby in a car seat. And he is a little bit close to me. His wife, partner, concubine, whoever she is, and his son are all the way on the other side of the pool. So for me personally, I don't know why he's sitting there because I don't see how he can see them. But, should be just a free country. See what you want. So as I'm taking a picture of my daughter and I'm bending down, this man says, excuse me, you're not supposed to be taking pictures. You shouldn't be taking pictures. I don't want you taking pictures. I says, pardon? He repeats himself. I said, what's your problem? Before I could say anything further, the swimming coach comes over And she says, oh yeah, no, you're not supposed to be taking pictures. I said, excuse me, Jenny, we've had this conversation. And she goes, have we? I said, yeah. And the conversation went a little bit like, I would like to be taking pictures of my daughter, and you encouraged me that would be a great idea for memories, and you give me the parameters and the boundaries to take those pictures. I said, please have a look at my phone. And she goes, oh, that's a lovely picture of your daughter. I said, do you see anybody there? She goes, no. I said, that's because I was bending down to take those pictures of my daughter. She goes, oh, there's nothing wrong with it. I turned to the man with his baby in the car seat. He's there rocking it with his leg. I said, excuse me, you don't get to police me, you know. You do not get to police me as a woman or as a black woman. He goes, oh, here we go. I says, I don't care. We're going to go down that road. He said, oh, that he doesn't want anyone taking pictures of his child. I said, excuse me, your child and your wife or your girlfriend or your concubine are all the way on the other side. You chose to sit here. So I want you to tell me how bending down to take a picture of my child interferes with taking a picture of your child. Tell me how that makes sense. I said, you know what it is? You're a busybody. And maybe you don't have a voice in your house. You're coming here to command somebody else. I said, it's never going to be me. I said, you see, today, you've picked the wrong one on the right day. You don't want to respect the baby that you're rocking here. Instead, it's me that you want to police. That's not going to happen. I said, maybe what happened to Diane Abbott, you think that all black women must be treated like that. It's not going to happen. I said, you don't get to command me. You don't get to talk to me. You don't get to control me. And if you don't like what I'm doing, go and make a formal complaint to the swim school. But what you're not going to do is police this black woman on this day or any given day. Then he was trying to say something, and anyway, I was just ignoring him. And then Kay obviously could see my facial expressions, and I speak with my hands. And he had our daughter in his hands, still swimming. He said, "Is everything okay?" And I said, "Yeah, everything's okay." This man and his baby car seat, he picks it up, walks all the way to the other side of the pool to his wife. I don't know what he's saying to her, wife, girlfriend, concubine, I don't know. Then walks on the side, by the way, over to Kay, bends down and says, "Oh, there's no problem." I said, "Excuse me, move." Then he comes and sits back. I said, "No, you're not sitting here." I said, "Because your job today is to police a black woman, and it's this black woman you're not going to police, and you're not sitting here. So find where you're going to sit, but you're not sitting next to me. You need to move." He picked himself up and he walked out. I want to say that I'm using a lot of passion to explain what happened, because every time I think about it, I get irritated. But I was very calm. Because I'm very conscious that there's other kids there and my daughter's there. However, I have to defend myself where anyone attempts to oppress me, especially someone who attempts to oppress me because they think they can. It's not going to happen. His behaviour till this day makes no sense. When the swimming school had finished, there was a lady, a white woman, and her husband is a black man that comes to the swim school as well, and they've got a little boy, gorgeous little boy. So as the swim school finishes for the day, she comes over to me and she says, "Excuse me, why was that man speaking to you like that?" I said, "My dear, I don't know." She goes, "But you were bending down to take a picture of your child. If anyone should have the problem, it should be me. But it was very obvious to me that you were bent down. The only person you're going to be taking a picture of is your child. And moreover, I don't have any problem. You should be free to do what you want." I says, "My dear, this is called policing black women 101. And she goes, "Definitely, I can see that. It's not right and it's not acceptable. And he has no right to talk to you like that. And if it happens again, I'll be saying something." I said, "Thank you. Thank you for..." And she goes, "I just wanted to make sure you was okay and let you know that you haven't done anything wrong." I said, "I know I haven't, but I appreciate the support. Thank you." When a white woman is coming to a defense of a black woman against a white man, you don't fuck up. You don't fuck the hell up. Yeah, you fucked up. You see, I feel like, and funny enough, or not so funny enough, that was a week after what happened to Diane Abbott. So that was still very fresh on my mind. It was very fresh on my mind. A lot of us as black women, we were triggered by that, because what happened to Diane Abbott is a reflection of sometimes what we experience in the workplace, where you're working maybe in white-dominated industries, especially with the fragility of some white men. Not all, some. feeling that they have the audacity and the power and the courage to speak down to us and basically assert an authority that is quite oppressive, laced in microaggression, the foundation of which is racism. But they don't want to have that conversation. As soon as you mention race, they jump, because you're now starting to pull the table on the foundation of what they're talking about. When you shake the table and you question the motive, if it wasn't that, he would have said, that's got nothing to do with it. I apologize if you think it is, but it's not. He could have said, but he didn't. And one thing with me, I'm going to let you know now. I have been through so much that when I utilize my money for enjoyment, like swim school, nobody is going to stop me from doing that. If you don't like to see black women enjoying in any form of enjoyment or luxury, you have a problem. But it's not my problem to diagnose your problem. And I'm never going to allow you to cheat me out of my enjoyment. Because that, if I took it where he wanted it to go, I would have cheated myself out of enjoying my daughter's swimming. No, I was very clear with him. And I was very direct. And also I told him, you're not sitting here. Because what I don't want now is my behaviour to change, or for me to feel uncomfortable or awkward to take pictures of my child because of the fragility of this white man who wants to police me, this black woman. On no given day that will be the case. Now, I caveat that by saying, and I shouldn't, but I will for the purposes of just saying it again so it's clear, this is not my experience with every white man. This isn't. But I have had experiences that are negative with white men. So this is why it's important for us to gather in a safe space to have this conversation. Because it's important as black women that we are revived in confidence to challenge microaggressions. And that challenging microaggressions is challenging the person who is exhibiting a microaggression to demonstrate to us that if what we are saying isn't what it is, then they should correct us. They should correct us. When you don't correct me, it's because I've shaken the table and taken off the blinds of what you're doing, and I've brought it to the light. I've taken it out of the blinds of the darkness and brought it to the light. So for me, I couldn't understand how I'm bending down to take a picture of my kid. Your concubine and your son are on the other side of the pool, but you're choosing to sit next to me. That was your first mistake. Have you come to observe your child swimming, or have you come to observe this black woman enjoying family time with her family? You see, when as black women we speak up, they don't like it. And that's why they label it as us being aggressive. Because you see, if you label us as something, then what you do is you strong arm us into silence. And what does silence do? Silence allows you to suffer in silence. And when you suffer in silence, you empower the person who is being the aggressor to continue. That can't happen. You cannot silence me. Because I have been silent for a long time. And when Toyah Talks happened, it wasn't a conscious thing. It was me sharing my experiences of the world of work and people gathering and sharing their experiences and understanding that collectively this is a problem and we need to find a strategic way in which to navigate the world of work and life whilst not losing our voice. As black women, it's really easy for us to lose our voice when society will blatantly show you, like a situation like Diane Abbott, and you become almost disappointed in the lack of accountability and condemnation of that behaviour exhibited towards Diane Abbott. That in itself can strong arm us into silence. But it's not going to happen. Where you see it, you must call it out. And it's the way you call it out. So sometimes you might call it out as making a statement. You may call it out by making it formal. You may call it out by challenging the situation whilst you're in it. And you may call it out by using the system to support you, i.e., making a formal complaint to HR if you'd like, or in extreme circumstances such as Diane Abbott, reporting it to the police. We're living in a society which continues to disrespect black women. and then uses some of the crooners, some of the puppets that label themselves, cultural commentators that look like us. They will use people that look like us to abuse us. That in itself is also violent. What Diane Abbott endured was racism, threats of violence, discrimination on the basis of her gender, and disrespect of the highest order. So when I see other black women who are MPs, I salute you, because I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I believe is it Diane Butler? I think her first name's Diane Butler. Basically, during the pandemic, parliamentary question, or just after the pandemic, I believe, she accused Boris of lying to them, of lying to the public. The way she was reprimanded by the House Speaker, they asked her to leave, I believe. Yeah. Only now to turn around that Boris had been lying about certain things. The way they humiliated that woman in the House of Commons, honestly, I was like, girl, this is too much. The House Speaker watched Diane Abbott stand up 46 times. 46. A white man, that is. He's a House Speaker. Listen, my thing is this. I'm done with trying to find a level playing field. We need equality. I support that. But I understand that we're a long way off. So now I'm into strategy and using the system that was created by them. I'll use the system against them to cover myself and look after and protect myself, because I feel very exposed. What happened to Diane Abbott really triggered a lot of us black women, because we felt exposed. We can imagine ourselves being her. We know that in certain situations we have been a Diane Abbott, where we've been ignored, where we've been violated verbally, where we've been disrespected, disregarded, microaggressions used as a weapon to control us, where we have been silenced, where we come out and tell people our experience and they try to make us feel as though it's not that serious, or if an apology has been rendered, we should just accept it without the accountability. It's just not on. I've worked in an organisation before where I was so disrespected on a call, and I weaponized those white tears that my white female counterparts have shown me. And there was another white man on the call, and I leveraged his ability and his proximity to whiteness, because our boss was white, to get him to complain to my boss about what had happened. But Matt, the white guy that had disrespected me, was spoken to, and honestly, that organisation dealt with it really well. I was very surprised they dealt with it, and I was a contractor, by the way. He was instructed to render an apology to me and the other guy. Me, I was even confused. I said it was me that was disrespected. What's the other guy got to do with it? But obviously his fragility. He said he was astonished on the call, so he had this heightened sense of fight or flight. These people will use English grammar. Me, I will use this one, fight or flight. I will use that one. Yeah. But I was like, do you know, to this very day, this man never apologized. The guy that disrespected, he didn't apologize. And the disrespect is when I was talking to him, he was shouting. I told him to stop shouting. And then he's like, Toyah, I'm going to let you know who I am. And ga 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 ga. And I don't need to come to you and ask you what my contractual position is, because I'm telling you that I'm the stakeholder. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't need anything from you. The way he was talking, I said, are you a goblin? What sort of what? Stupid. I didn't care whether he apologised or not. I just wanted him to put on notice that your other senior managers now know that you're a thug. So you care about what your colleagues think, and look at it. It was your fellow man that went and snitched about your behaviour towards a black woman and towards him because of his fragility, innit? I just wanted it to be put on record that your behaviour was deplorable. Whether you apologise to me or not, I don't care. I just needed him to know that it's never going to be me. and you're not going to get away with it. The way he was talking to me thereafter, he was like, you know, a puppy. Yeah, he was like a puppy because he's embarrassed now, isn't he? He thought that was a call of just 3 of us there. No, I brought it to the light. And this is what I'm saying about bringing things to the light and understanding strategically how to do certain things. Apologies, they don't really do much for me. It's change behaviour. But your inability to render an apology shows me that your ego is so damn fragile that rendering an apology makes you feel like you're weak. That tells me more about you than it does about anything else. And that's cool. But the idea for him of apologizing to a woman, better yet a black woman, he couldn't do it. And this is how we are in the workplace. So Diane Abbott and what she went through was utterly deplorable. It was disgusting. It was just shocking. And I know for a lot of us, we close our eyes and we remember a situation where we had an adjacent feeling to what she could possibly be feeling. But also recognizing that what happens in politics usually finds its way into life. And that almost shock that this could happen on such a public scale. And what is the consequences? What are the police going to do? The Labour Party are effectively her employer. And they haven't got her back. She was literally in a situation where she could talk about the effects of what happened, what her belief is of what happened. She was not even given a voice to speak. They ignored her. How many of us have felt ignored or feeling ignored in our workplaces, where you know that your voice is there but nothing is coming out, there's no sound? That's crazy to me. And this is why I will continue to advocate for us as black women, advocate for myself in my situations, and also advise you guys, teach you guys, give you guidance of how to advocate for yourself when you find yourself in certain predicaments that are driven by the prejudice of people who do not want to see black women be successful, prosper, or be happy. I will always have to provide an opportunity to share, so that as black women we can find the confidence and the courage and the reassurance to go in the world of work or go out in life and use our voice. Grammar. I remember my first day at secondary school. My dad had taken me. My dad was so proud. He was so happy. And we was in assembly, and we had, our head teacher was Mr. Shipley. No, was it Mr. Shipley? Yes, it was Mr. Shipley. And in the assembly, he introduced himself and he said, I want everyone to stand up and repeat after me. Education, education, education. And I think it was Tony Blair that said that as well. Well, Mr. Shipley was a Labour supporter. And my dad was passionate. My dad made me repeat it. And I was thinking, what the hell? But you know, when I look back, what that said to me? You have to learn the ways of the land in which you live. You need to educate yourself about where you are, where you work. Due diligence is an education. You need to be a subject matter expert, read around your subject, education. You need to understand the ecosystem in where you work, education. You need to be clued up to what micro and macroaggressions look like, education. You need to understand how you are going to package yourself, education. And you need to open your mind to learning, education. That's what that meant to me. At the age of 13 and now being 39, that is what I remember was the beginning stage of my formal education into education and the life of education, i.e. the life we're living now. There is a reason why they don't teach us about mortgages, loans, credit, investment. There is a reason. Brokerage accounts, they don't teach us these things. And if they're teaching them, they're not teaching them in inner city schools, honey, where I came from. It's a form of control by removing the access to knowledge which will educate you into the decisions you will make. There's a reason why we are not taught these things. Do you think if I had a podcast back when I was in my 20s, me who I suffer, I do. Me who has suffered in the hands of people, it would have been a wrap for everybody. But here we are, learning from our mistakes, being students of life, and allowing ourselves to be educated, and also being students and learning from other people's situation, mistakes, and winnings. That's what's important. So the question I ask, and in any situation that happens, is what have you learned from it? So what's happened with Diane Abbott? What did you learn? So I'll go first. I learned that I have a duty to myself and now to my daughter to advocate for myself in situations that make me uncomfortable. Because in that swim school, I felt uncomfortable. Because something so simple was made to feel like it was wrong. I also learned that you can stand up 46 times and people will ignore you. Sometimes you have to use your ability to use your voice and your platform to advocate for yourself. You have to use the tools around you to be able to use your voice. Diane Abbott played the political game too. Unpopular opinion. She could have done a Instagram live. She could have used social media, because right now she has nothing to lose. And she could have shared with us, number one, what was said, how did she come to know it was said, how it made her feel, and what she expects from the Labour leader Keir Starmer, and put him on a high jump. But maybe she's just tired. These several years in politics has possibly made her tired, and she probably thinks, you know what, I can only give what I can give. I've done my best. Maybe that's it. But I wish, I know that there was a rally in Hackney, is it Hackney West or East, I can't remember, but in Hackney, in which is her constituents, and they really they protested for her, they really lifted her on their shoulders. But even then, when she was given the mic, I felt like her answers were so political. The things she said was so, I feel like she never really said what she really wanted to say. And I feel like Diane Abbott, Keir Starmer don't want you in the Labour Party no more. You're still suspended to this day. And I feel like, what do you have to lose? Because there's other black women like myself and several of us here that are looking to you to almost advise us and to teach us what you have learned through this situation, and give us a window to what this situation actually is and means. But I feel like maybe you feel like that's not your job, and that's cool. But I want to hear from it, because I still don't feel like we've really heard from Diane Abbott, if I'm honest. What do you learn from that situation? How can you better improve yourself to place yourself in a situation whereby you can better handle difficult situations or uncomfortable situations? Because as black women, you know what it is? I'd like to just exist without feeling policed or without being made to feel uncomfortable. And this is the reason why I opened my mouth at swim school. There's some situations that happen where I'm just like, oh, not today. But because of what's happened with Diane Abbott, I feel like what happens in politics will find its way into life usually. And you have to nip it in the bud to let them know, now, when you put on your TV, you're not going to come and live EastEnders out here, mate. Absolutely not. Also, as well, I want to just mention very briefly, because I know that Celebrity Big Brother has finished now, but Louis Walsh and ZZ Mills. Louis Walsh, within the first 48 hours of entering the Big Brother house and he met ZZ Mills, he was in the diary room. And he nominated ZZ Mills for to be evicted from the Big Brother house. And his reason is that she's sure of herself and she's full of herself. He said that she thinks that she's famous, but nobody knows who she is, and la da 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 da. I always say to you that being a subject matter expert is your superpower. The reason I say that is the confidence you gain from knowing something well, leveraging it to navigate the world of work and earn yourself more money in senior positions is what makes people like Louis Walsh uncomfortable. Because he's been conditioned to think either only him or people that look like him have access to that. His inflated self-importance comes from being affirmed by society that he is important and no one else is. Or people that look like him are more important than. When I heard that, I thought, there it is. When a black woman is confident, she's labelled arrogant. When a black woman speaks up, she's called confrontational. Sassy is sometimes what they use because it's on the cusp. When they meet an educated black woman, they will ask us to prove that education, because as black women we couldn't possibly educate ourselves enough to find ourselves in this position. So how did we get here? As black women, we have a duty to rise and soar, because being oppressed or continue to be oppressed is not an option. If you want to attain true success and define success as what it means to you, you have to allow yourself the opportunity to be the best in class at what you do. Where I'm currently working, I am the only black woman on the team. Now, it's a diverse organisation, but I am the only black woman on my team. And I don't remember it, or it doesn't come to my mind. It's just something that I'm aware of, because as black women, we're hyper aware of our environment, aren't we? And how we, and what masks we're putting on. But I've been put in the deep end. Really and truly, when you start somewhere new, you should be benched. In a consultancy environment, you should be benched at least for a week or two as you acclimatise to your environment. But I wasn't. I was deployed. I don't do procurement. I find it really boring. Can't stand it, to be honest. But every time and everywhere I worked, I always found myself in a procurement team doing commercial contracts. So, in 1998, in 2017, 2018, I decided to do my level 4 SIPs in procurement and supply. It was the best thing I ever did, the hardest as well, because it was going back into education after having my master's for several years. It was a lot, and balancing that with work. But it was, for me, a great opportunity for me to do. I had nothing else to do apart from work and stuff, and I was figuring life out, so why not? And one of the reasons I did it is because in order to kind of be good at what I did, I needed to understand the steps that happened before in the procurement cycle. So what better than to educate myself through formal education? Do you know that where I've been deployed, before we get to the bulk of what I need to do, I'm involved now in the procurement cycle. And I'm having to add value from day one. Do you know that my boss had a meeting with one of my key stakeholders? Now, as part of my due diligence, I know who my key stakeholders are. I have a very good relationship with them. They're very inclusive. I must say, they make me feel part of the team. They introduce me. They ask me for my opinion. They're lovely. They're really, really nice people and very learned, very educated. They are, best in class at what they do. Anyway, one of my key stakeholders went to my manager. My boss had a conversation, because obviously we need to know pipeline and stuff. And he said, Toyah's brilliant. She's a team player, and she really thinks things through. She doesn't just talk for the sake of it. And she's added so much value, and I'm really looking forward to working with her going forward. For me, when my boss came back to tell me, which I thought was lovely because he didn't have to, do you know what I picked from that? It's really important to read around your subject matter. So if you're still figuring out a career, whatever you land on, you need to read around what you do. You need to do further education, further learning. When you go somewhere new, or even if you're in an existing place now, you need to know who are your influential stakeholders. Who are the ones that have influence? And you need to find a way to work with them. Remember, I didn't say you have to find a way to like them. That's not what I said. I said you have to find a way to work with them. You may not like me, but you're going to respect me. I've spent a lot of time understanding or trying to figure out how to navigate, formulating strategies to be able to obtain certain things to be able to do my work. And this is where, as black women, we will excel if we allow ourselves to do the due diligence required to navigate successfully. Before I close this podcast episode, I want to end with this statement. You need to bet on yourself. You need to bet on yourself. Because if you don't bet on yourself, nobody else is going to do it. Betting on yourself is you need to know that you are worthy. If you don't believe in your worthiness, no one else is going to believe it. Imposter syndrome is real. I suffer from imposter syndrome sometimes, even where I'm at now. Do you think I haven't had times where I'm like, oh my God, I'm working with these amazing minds, like, you know, am I going to get found out that I'm not as advanced as them? Actually, no. I may not be as advanced as them, but I deserve to be here. And I'm going to learn from every one of these people so that one day I'm on par with every one of them. I think that imposter syndrome in moderation is quite humbling. But the key word is moderation. So there's a singer called Raye, and she left her label Polydor and went independent, and she shared that how she felt as though she wasn't, you know, they didn't really believe in who she was as an artist, and they downplayed her. She was like, a lot of her music was shelved. She was writing for other people, but she wasn't actually getting what she needed from the label. She was made to feel that if she left, her career would be over. She had the most Brit nominations and Brit wins in the Brit Awards this year. She has successfully paved the way for herself as a singer, and now I know her to be a songwriter. What I learned from Raye is, if you bet on yourself, you are always going to win. You can't expect other people to bet on you if you don't have the self-confidence in yourself to know that you deserve. There's an episode at the beginning of the podcast series called Your Manager is Not the Key to Your Success. That's because you are the key to your success. You have to know that you're worthy and you're good enough, and be in a continuous cycle of learning, because that's the only way. I have a dilemma that I want to quickly read before my battery dies. What is it with Apple phones and the battery life? Like, seriously. Oh, maybe a new phone is coming out. I need some headphones. I want to get them headphones, but I'm waiting for new colours. Anyway, sorry, I digress. Let me read the dilemma. So it's entitled Dilemma. Hello Toyah, hope you're well. My greetings to you and your family. I have a dilemma which is I wish to seek advice on. I started a role as a deputy head teacher in a brand new school. I decided to take the leap and apply within 3 years of teaching, with only 3 years of teaching experience. I have done some locum work with this school and aware of how the school runs. I started some months ago, and the team are predominantly black, just 2 white colleagues. Okay. Since I started, I've got really bad vibes from 2 junior members of staff. I decided to keep my distance from these 2. The 2 then became very disrespectful and tried to undermine me. I'll give you an example. One questioned why I delegated her a specific task. I did say to her, "You will do it, and that's all." Her friends then jumped in and asked me, "Is that necessary?" I ignored both and walked away. These 2 ladies were who are African and much older than me, again, try to be disrespectful, questioning why I've delegated them tasks, making excuses as to why they couldn't do it. I was firm and said, you will do it. Another day, one came storming in saying it's not nice that you've done what you've done. I said to her, you can raise your concerns with management, and I cut her off. She then reported me that I'm picking on her, the cheek of it. I then messaged my manager stating how concerned I was with the two ladies' behaviour. My manager is afraid of them. She is white. She asked me if I discussed it. If I wanted to discuss it, I said no. She then said they want your job and feel threatened because before I came, they were doing my role for free. I stated that it's not my concern, their behaviour won't be tolerated and is inappropriate. My manager said I should deal with it and speak to them on my own, which I don't think is appropriate. I left it. All this I have documented. Again, one was very disrespectful during a team meeting. I reported this to the manager stating I'd like to have a meeting with the three of us to discuss her behaviour. I did follow up with this in an email. I was told I would have the meeting the next day, and this was 3 weeks ago. The meeting hasn't happened. I have been told by several people these two ladies have been constantly downgrading me, stating I'm no good at the job. I wish to remain professional, but I need to deal with these two ladies once and for all. I'm not on probation past that. I am new and I have training to undertake. These ladies are going on every single training you can think of beyond their role, trying to compete with me. These two ladies are now doing my role, but for free. They are being used to fill a gap and feel they are something they are not. What's ironic is both ladies recently interviewed for my role elsewhere at multiple schools and both were rejected. God don't like ugly, laugh out loud. I have all that's transpired in my burn folder. I now only speak to these ladies if I have to, other than when I walk past them, when I see them. I'd like advice on what to do next. Sorry for the long story, I wanted to give you context to the story. Okay. You are a deputy head teacher of a school. Can we just give you your flowers? Just because they're skin folk, honey, don't mean nothing. And I say don't mean nothing because if you're placing emphasis that they're your fellow black women, these are your fellow black women that are disrespecting you, undermining you, and effectively questioning why you've been given the job. They're actually poison. They're seeping poison into the minds of other people who are watching them seemingly get away with the behaviour they're exhibiting. And you don't want a mutiny on your hands because what is it that happens in politics? A vote of no confidence. That's what you don't want. This is the advice I will give you. You have to use your position to your advantage, my love. You are a deputy head teacher. So that means that you're not just managing the school, you're managing the staff members. You have to use the policies that you have to deal with these women. Every interaction that is verbal must be followed up in writing, and you know this. Come on, if you've got a burn folder, then I know you listen to the podcast, you know all of this. I think that if you have enough evidence in your burn folder, I think that you should use the HR system, because obviously I don't know how HR works in schools, but I think that you need to pull them up for misconduct. If their behaviour can be evidenced, then you need to. Because what the message is that you're sending to the other members of staff is insubordination, disrespect, and a disregard for your authority will not be tolerated. Because they've taken it to an extreme now. If they're doing your job for free, how long do you think it's going to be before you don't even have a job, sis? When we talk about safeguarding, we have to safeguard our career. You have to protect it. And I need you to remove the fact that they're black women, because it doesn't mean much to them. I've worked in a place before where somebody had interviewed for the job who had been working there for a long time, didn't get it. I came in and she made it her sole mission to make sure I lose that job. She even complained about me that I was bullying her. How can somebody who is giving up their time to train you be bullying you simply because I asked her if she had completed a piece of work that I had given her. She said that I said it in front of people. Well, am I going to say it in secret? My boss came to talk to me about it. I said, don't talk to me about this. This is rubbish. If she has a problem, she should make a formal complaint against me. But what I'm not going to have is a smear campaign. Because it's leaving poison everywhere. I don't want it. Do you know that when you do things to the children of God with clean hands, when God said vengeance is his, the ancestors said, oh yeah. When our team was taken over by a new manager, what do you think is going to happen? Redundancies. And guess who was on top of the list of the redundancies? The very same lady that I was training that accused me of bullying. That one. Do you know that this girl came to confess to me? She asked me if she can speak to me in private. This is where she apologized for how she's treating me. That it's not me that she's angry with, it's the organization. That she applied for my job, she didn't get it, and then I came to do the job. And now she's my admin assistant, that she felt disrespected. I said, but I didn't disrespect you. I wasn't involved. I wasn't here, darling. It's nothing to do with me. Then she went on to start crying that she's now been made redundant. Can I put in a word for her? Absolutely not. I told her I can't put in a word for you because I wasn't involved in the redundancy. And also as well, you know, you made a complaint against me to the boss. I was bullying you. You didn't formalize it. But I'm not sure. Are you going to retract that statement that you made? She said she's going to retract it. I said thank you. Can you imagine? That's a fellow black woman just like me. Sometimes you have to challenge the system you work in by using the system you work in. I think that it's high time that you exercise your ability to be a deputy head teacher and show the head teacher how it's done, because she doesn't want to do it because she's scared of them. So you do it. Show her what it is to be a head teacher. You've got a burn folder. Do you think that you're here to collect burn folder just so you can look at it? I tell people all the time, collecting a burn folder is not just to look inside to make sure there's things in there. That burn folder is an evidence of continuous behavior that makes your job difficult, that can be used to support any accusation that you make as a result of their bad behavior. So use it. If you listen to Closet Racist, I even outlined the complaint that I made. That's how you should do it. It should be a very organized, succinct. That's how you do it. They need to be reprimanded for the behavior, even if it's a formal warning on their record. They're interviewing everywhere, didn't get the job. So what do you think they're going to do? Come back and see you and smile? They're going to be angry and laying more poison. Some idea? You've got something to do. Get busy, sis. Let us know the outcome. And I hope that you'll continue to build that burn folder, but now you're going to use it. Now it's time to use that burn folder. Keep us updated. And again, remember who you are. You are a deputy head teacher. Whether you've been training for 3 years, 4 years, whatever, they believe that you are a safe pair of hands and that you can do the job. This is your first task. This is your first big deputy head teacher task. It's called human resources. The people that are being resourced have fallen short of an expectation of what's required to do the job. Now is your opportunity to get them in line. If you would like to follow me on social media, Instagram, Toyah_Washington. If you want to follow me on TikTok, it's Toyah_Washington. If you would like to follow me on Snapchat, it's Toyah Washington, all one word. If you have a work-related dilemma or a life-related dilemma, email me. In the subject box, write it's a dilemma. Keep it short, brief, and straight to the point. hello@toyahtalks.com. Of course, you know that we have the masterclasses on the toyahtalks.com website. Good, yeah. And start investing in yourself, okay? Thank you so much for listening. If you are on Spotify or Apple Podcasts listening to this podcast, please leave your comments, because I listen to all of them. I read all of them. And unfortunately, I can't reply, but it really helps me in terms of charting and ranking of the podcasts. And I really appreciate you all listening and supporting. I do have some pre-recorded episodes that I've pre-recorded a few months ago, so I'll be editing them and uploading those as well, because the messagings are pertinent and I know that you will want to listen. But I want to thank each and every one of you for your support, your love, your positivity, your DMs, your comments that you leave on the podcast platforms that you listen to. It's very much appreciated. Your group chats, thank you. Take care of yourself and each other, and make sure you take your vitamins. My name is Toyah Washington, and you have been listening to the Toyah Talks podcast.